Hello, hello, everyone. How are y'all doing today? Welcome to an inner look at our own fool's journey. I'm super excited to be delivering this to y'all. I think this is going to be a very healing experience, a very enlightening experience, and it's going to help us connect with the tarot a little bit better too. So the thing about the tarot is that it represents these different life phases, these different life events, okay? Especially the major arcana. These are going to be like huge life events, where the minor arcana is more about like daily event things, daily things that we might encounter, daily feelings, daily situations, things that might crop up day to day. The major arcana really represents these huge life phases, okay? So for example, whenever I think about pulling the death card, okay, if you are in that death card phase of your life, then a lot of changes are happening. A lot of things are moving forward. A lot of things are really up in the air, right? Even though these changes, a lot of times we even think that these changes are going to be really helpful for us, it can still be a lot, right? So that's why I chose the Fool's Journey for this, okay? I think it is going to really be helpful for us to see the Fool's Journey through our own lens, okay? Through our own eyes. Now, y'all know I'm a huge fan of the Fool's Journey, okay? I've done many, many courses on that. So I'm not going to really dive in super deep to the Fool's Journey on this one, but I am going to go over the cards briefly and just make sure that, you have a good basis for this. Also, as an option, there's going to be a PDF over on my website available for help with this, okay? And that's going to go deeper into these life events, okay? There's going to be different prompts on there. There's going to be some questions to ask yourself to really help you dive in and choose the right picture for your card, okay? So this idea actually came to me whenever I was sitting on the couch hanging out with my husband, and I started thinking, like I often think, it would be fun to make a tarot deck. Okay. I've always wanted to make a tarot deck, right? So immediately after that, I thought, ooh, what if I did that with my own pictures? Not to sell, right? I'm not going to sell them, but like how impactful could that be, right? In my own growth phase. So I started to do that project. And through that process, I realized I need to be sharing this with other people. Thus, this class was born. Okay. So this is going to help us better understand the tarot and its influence on our lives, okay? We are going to probably understand the tarot a little bit better and then also be able to understand ourselves a little bit better and perhaps even be able to take a peek into what comes next for us, okay? As an example, using the same example, if we are moving through that death card phase currently, then maybe we know that that temperance phase is right around the corner, right? So that can almost bring us a little bit of peace. It can almost offer that light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, whenever we are thinking about the things that are happening in our lives and having some sort of relief with that, okay? So let's go ahead and get into this, shall we? Now, I am going to be showing you two different decks. I am using the Light Seers Tarot deck. Absolutely my favorite deck. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I usually use that deck, okay? And then also Tarot of the New Visions. So what I love about this deck is that it takes the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith depictions of the cards and flips them 180 degrees. So we get to see the background of a lot of pictures. And I thought that might be a little bit helpful for this. So, okay, let's get into the Fool's Journey. So again, if you've been following me for any length of time, then you know what I'm about to say. Essentially, we are all the Fool, okay? The Fool kicks off the major arcana, and the Fool is numbered 0, which pretty much places them outside, right? Outside of the major arcana, because essentially, the Fool is us. We are all on our own Fool's journey. We are encountering these different themes. We are moving through things. We are starting over. We are taking leaps of faith, things like that, okay? So whenever I am thinking about this card, I would suggest choosing a picture of yourself. Okay, choosing a picture of yourself for your journey. Okay, choosing a picture of yourself before you took some sort of leap of faith. Maybe you stepped off into something new and you didn't know how it was going to land. Maybe there's a little bit of apprehension on your face in the picture. That's totally fine. That would fit really well with this card, okay? Because this card is all about that, starting over, beginning again, the potential, right? The potential of what lies ahead. So whenever you are thinking about what picture you want to use for the Fool, be thinking about that. Be thinking about a time in your life when you were not afraid, or even if you were afraid, you still did it. You took that leap of faith. You stepped off into something new. You did the thing, okay? So Moving on to the magician. So the magician is all about magic, manifestation, being able to exact our will, right? Being able to bring forward the things that we want, right? So whenever I'm thinking about this with my own personal fool's journey, I would think about a time whenever I embraced the magic of my life, whenever I was watching my manifestations come to fruition, whenever I was embracing life to the fullest extent, and whenever I wasn't afraid to ask for what I wanted, okay? Whenever we are creating things, this could also be a creation card, okay? So whenever you're choosing a picture for this, it would be a good idea to choose something that makes you think of that magic, right? That makes you think of those manifestations coming to light, that makes you think about creating the life that you want to see. So moving on to the next one, we have the high priestess, okay? So the high priestess is that intuition, that inner guidance, that so-called shadow, okay? The magician can be seen as our shine, whereas the high priestess is our shadow, right? The little darkness, what's hiding underneath, right? Maybe the underbelly a little bit. So whenever I'm thinking about how to depict this card, I would definitely think about a time in my life whenever I needed to listen to my intuition, whenever I felt connected intuitively to something or someone or a situation. I would also think about a card that could depict what my shadow is, what my shadow represents, okay? So that's another angle that you can go on with the magician and the high priestess. You could have a card to represent your shine and a card to represent your shadow, okay? So going into the Empress now, okay? With the Empress, this is essentially the Fool's mother, okay? So I know you can kind of feel it already, right? You can already feel what I'm going to get into. So this card may have us analyzing our relationship with our mother, right? Maybe some of us might want to choose to use a picture of our mother as a representation. Or if we are a mother, we might want to use that as a picture of a representation, okay? If we have children, we might want to use that. This card also has to do with abundance though, and being able to create things as well, okay? Really being able to dive in and form these things, okay? So whenever you're thinking about this card, and there will be additional questions on the PDF to really help you with this, but I want you to really be thinking about that mothering energy, okay? Now, I don't want you to get attached to the gender of mother, okay? What I'm saying is a person who raises someone, okay? The nurturing parent, the nurturing guardian even, doesn't even necessarily have to be the biological parent, okay? This could very well be the person who nurtured you, okay? Whoever that was, even if it was someone that you didn't really know, choosing a picture to represent them for the Empress could be really cathartic for you, could be really healing. It could help you better understand how you have taken those traits, maybe, of either your mother or the guardian or the parent, right? The nurturing parent, how you have taken those traits and either adopted them in your own way or you have completely discarded them, right? Because a lot of us, as we are growing up, we notice, things with our mother and our father or our parents. We have the nurturing parent there, and then this is the strict parent, right? The strict parent, the rigid parent, the authoritarian parent, right? Classically, this is the father, but this could be either one, right? I think, and a lot of times parents fill these roles, right? And that's kind of what's happening here, okay? So again, don't get too attached to the gender here, but really be thinking about how certain people in your life might fit these bills, okay? So again, as you're diving into the Emperor, you might feel some things come up around the relationship with that more strict, more rigid parent, okay? You might feel some things coming up with that. And honestly, that's part of this journey, okay? So as we are diving into this and as we are moving through this, that's why there's going to be options for mentor sessions. There's going to be the Facebook group option, things like that, because we are going to need to kind of work through this together, because alone it could feel a little heavy for some of us, depending on how much work we've done, right? So as these things come up, this is whenever you can reach out for help. This is whenever you can reach out to, either myself, or if you have a mentor, reaching out to your mentor, talking about what you're doing, talking about what it's bringing up for you, so that you can continue to move forward through your journey. That's what this is supposed to do, okay? So if you're already feeling the emotions and you're like, I don't know if this is for me, the emotions are part of this journey. So if you are not comfortable feeling these emotions, or if this is going to get a little too deep for you, I would suggest maybe coming back later. This video isn't going to go anywhere, okay? This is going to live here. This is going to be an ongoing thing, hopefully for years to come, okay? At least that's what I see in my vision whenever I think about this video, okay? So, as you are going through this, if you get stuck on a card, that's okay. Take a break, come back to it later whenever you are ready and refreshed and feeling more encouraged to move forward. So, continuing our little fool's journey, then the fool goes and meets the Hierophant, and the Hierophant is all about tradition, okay? All about tradition, all about teaching the ways that things are, okay? So we can think about societal traditions. We can think about religious traditions if we grew up in religious homes. We can think about all those things, but I want you to also consider the reverse meaning of this card as well. This need to step out of tradition, this need to step away from the ways that things have always been done. We don't always have to align with that, right? We can do our own thing. We don't have to conform. So finding a picture of this might be a representation of you finding what your spiritual journey was going to be, how you were going to get there, things like that. The Hierophant can also represent a mentor or a guide or something. So if you have a picture of your mentor, you could totally put that on this card. Again, you don't have to share these cards with anyone if you don't want to. These are going to be completely yours, okay? But the whole concept of using our own pictures for these cards is going to be so powerful, okay? We're going to be able to really understand ourselves and our journey through our lives so much better as we use our own cards, okay? So I already know some people are going to be asking questions of, okay, well, can I, find a picture on PicLab or WordSwag or something like that, or Photify, whatever apps you're using, right? And I strongly suggest no, okay? Not saying that I am the end all be all, but I would suggest if you're going to use a stock photo, choose only one card for the stock photo, okay? Because and I understand not everybody has pictures of the past, okay? That's why it's really important to really see this as not so much a picture of the event that happened, but perhaps a picture of the effect of the event that happened, okay? So, using that death card example again, let's say that change was, a car accident that changed your life forever, okay? You don't probably want to put a picture of that accident on that card, okay? If you do, rock on, you could probably use that for the tower too. But either way, if you want to use a stock photo for that, or perhaps maybe a photo of what came after, right? To depict that, to depict what happened after the changes, to depict that rebirth instead of really depicting the horrible event that happened that took you out of that space, okay? So continuing on, we have the lovers, okay? So with the lovers, this is very much about the fool realizing that they want a lover, okay? That they want a lover, that they are ready for a lover. But in all of that thought, they also have to consider, am I a good lover? Am I going to be a good partner? What makes me a good partner? What do I want in a partner? Am I ready to figure out someone to heal with in a partnership? Because long-lasting relationships are going to have to heal together too in order to continue to be as close as they were, in order to continue to grow together, things like that. So all of these things the fool has to consider. So whenever we're thinking about what photo we might put for this one, if you're married, this might be a picture of your partner. If you are on a self-love journey right now, this might be one of your favorite pictures of yourself, right? If the love thing isn't really connecting, you can always focus on the duality aspect of this card, the choice aspect. What was a choice that you made that has literally changed your life? How has that led to this journey of loving yourself, of being able to grow through what you go through, things like that, okay? The Chariot. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways that we can go with this one too. Now, whenever the fool meets the chariot, the fool starts to realize, hey man, I got to take the reins. I got to do my own thing. I'm going to find my way. I'm going to find my own direction, things like that. So then we can be thinking of a time in our lives whenever we did that. What happened whenever we took the reins? What happened whenever we took control and took back our lives? What was the result of that? those might be the pictures that you choose. As an example, let's say you wanted to go back to school, okay, but you're having all these hesitations around going back to school. I'm not sure if this is going to be for me. I don't know if this is the right program, so on and so forth, right? All the worries coming through. Well, what would happen if you took the reins, if you decided to go, okay? If you decided to go to school, what could potentially happen? You could get that degree. You could increase the amount of money that you earn, as over a yearly basis. You could allow yourself to progress in your career that you already have. That's all that movement energy of the chariot, okay? Also, if you have made a geographical move, if you've moved across the country, if you've moved across the world, and that ended up being like something that was really impactful for you, you can totally use that for this card as well. So moving on to strength. So the Fool meets strength whenever the Fool begins to go through some things, and the Fool has to learn how to have that strength, that inner strength, and learns how to build that confidence and build and let go of that self-doubt, and really become more connected to themselves, things like that. Inner child work here too, okay? So if you want a card that you can put a picture of little you on there, strength might be it, okay? Because think about it. Think about that little you inside of yourself. That little you has been there for so long and has been so patient in waiting for you to essentially wake up, right? So maybe honoring your inner child might be something that you could do with this project as well, okay? Because that's the thing. This is supposed to be a really fun, creative project, okay? Later on, I'll get into like different options of how we can make these cards. But honestly, the sky's the limit on how people want to create their cards. You can do whatever you want, really. Okay, moving on to the Hermit. The Fool meets the Hermit whenever the Fool realizes that they need to do a deep dive. They need to figure out what's going on. They need to take a step back. Maybe the Fool has been overdoing it, right? Maybe the Fool has been really rushing in and trying to save the day, and it's just too much for them, right? We all have those times in our lives, right? So then with the Hermit, the Fool learns that they are going to need to do that deep dive into themselves. They're going to need to take some time off to themselves. Maybe they need to take a step back, So that's exactly what this card is for here. Now, if you wanted to do a card that represents the culmination of your shadow work, okay? Like I saw a picture of a tattoo in my head just now while I was talking about that. So if you have like a tattoo that you've gotten to signify the end of work, you could definitely put that on this card too. You could put a picture of your journal on this card. You could put a picture of you really diving into that work. Maybe, one time I've done this before. That's why I have to laugh. Maybe one time you were diving into some heavy work and you were crying, but that crying turned to tears of joy, right? So you could put a picture of that if you happen to have a picture of that. I've taken selfies of myself crying. It's true. I know. Come on, you haven't? Come on. Or at least looked at yourself and gone, whoa. So you could totally use that for that Hermit card, okay? The point of the Hermit is being able to take that time off for inner reflection, going into solitude for a purpose, okay? Alternatively, you could definitely use a picture of yourself whenever you were isolating, right? Whenever you were isolating and staying away from people for whatever reason, you could definitely use a picture for that as well. Okay, moving on to the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, so this card is all about luck, all about destiny, things like that. So whenever I think about the Fool meeting the Wheel of Fortune, I always think about the Fool realizing their own path, their own destiny, their own fate, realizing that there's going to be ups and downs of life, and that it's really important to embrace all of that. So all that being said, finding a card to represent maybe a time that you felt really lucky, maybe a time that you felt really blessed, you felt aligned, you felt like you were on the right path. That might be a good picture for the wheel as well. Also, if you're a gambler, and you won really well, then yeah, put that on the Wheel of Fortune. That's a great thing for that. Okay. Like there's many different ways that you can play with these cards, right? My whole thing is like, let's go deep, let's dig in, let's do the work, things like that. But you can definitely make these more fun. They don't have to be super serious. They don't have to be super emotional. They can be fun, or at least some of them can be fun, right? We can definitely add that fun spin to things. It doesn't always have to be so serious all the time. In fact, if we can learn how to laugh at ourselves a little bit better, it would probably work out a whole lot better too. Anyway, now we move on to justice. Okay. So whenever the fool meets justice, the fool realizes that they have to take responsibility for a lot of the things that have happened. I almost feel like this is that point in our adult lives whenever we realize we have to stop blaming our parents for every little fucking thing and we have to take responsibility for our lives. Yeah, that's where the fool's at with justice. Okay. So also the fool could be standing up for some sort of injustice, right? In trying to make things better. So that's another depiction of this card that you could use as well. Okay. Either way, being able to really examine a time in your life whenever you had to stand up and take responsibility for what has happened. And think about how impactful that moment was for you. Okay. Think about how, if it was not for that moment, how your life would have been totally different, how your life would have been maybe opposite from what your life is now. And really feel that gratitude with that gratitude that you got that gift of, oh, I have to do this. I have to take responsibility. I have to see things as they are. I have to accept that what I did either was not right or was right, depending on the situation. But being able to accept that responsibility no matter what. Next, we move on to the Hanged Man. Oh, yes. Okay. So this card's all about letting go, surrendering to the process, taking a pause, right? Taking an intentional pause. So when was the last time you took a break? Yeah, be thinking about that with this card. Okay. Also be thinking about a time in your life that maybe things felt like it almost feels like maybe things could have been almost attacking you in a way, almost like you didn't really have room to breathe. And then you had to take a step back. You had no choice but to take a step back. It's almost like the universe was pushing so hard. And finally, you got the message, right? I think we've all had times in our lives like that, right? So I want you to be thinking about that time and how that pause was so sacred, how that break was so needed, and how that fed you afterwards, okay? So be thinking about that with this card. Also be thinking about a time whenever maybe things were happening all around you and you could have gotten involved, but instead you took a step back. That could also be another thing to put on that card, okay? So a picture of a time that you had to surrender to the process, and maybe be thinking about how that surrender felt. Maybe be thinking about how that break felt. Were you able to do that without feeling the pull to get back in the fight? Okay, because that's the other thing. Because after the pause, after the break, comes the time for change. The illustrious death card, my favorite. It is my favorite because a Scorpio sun, it just makes sense, right? So with the death card, it's all about change. It's all about rebirth. It's all about starting over, and even though sometimes the death card pops up and it almost feels like these changes are coming out of nowhere, a lot of times in hindsight, we can look back and we can see how these changes were coming right for us the whole time. So with this, I want you to think about a time in your life of tremendous change, a time in your life when maybe you didn't know what was up. Maybe you were coming up to this change after that pause, after that pause and that reflection and that time to figure out, oh man, something has to change. And then we move into that death card phase. Be thinking about that and how impactful that was for you and how these changes have led you to where you are now and how impossible maybe these changes felt. Maybe these changes were so left field, you had no idea, right? I think I've talked about me being an addict in recovery, right? Whenever I think about who I was before recovery, I had no idea there was another world out there. I was so stuck in my narrow little world, right? When the death card comes, it opens up our world. We don't think it is in the first place, but it does, right? So when that death card comes, when change approaches, when change is on the menu, okay, how do you embrace it? How do you welcome it in? How do you fight through the fear of change? Okay. Be thinking about all of that as you're creating this card, as you're looking for the picture that's going to depict this card. Again, this is not supposed to take 5 minutes to do, okay? And if it does take 5 minutes, maybe do it again later, okay? Just because this is going to be a deep dive into ourselves, into different pieces of our lives that maybe we have not really embraced, okay? So whenever you're going through your pictures and looking, I want you to really think about those death card phases, okay? And really think about how the changes that you are thinking about putting on the card, would you be the same person you are now without those changes? So after all of that change comes a little piece of peace. A piece of peace. That's funny. A little era of peace. Okay. Temperance is next. Okay. And when the Fool meets Temperance, the Fool has already done a lot of changes. Everything. It's almost like the Fool goes, oh, okay. Okay, I'm seeing the balance. I'm seeing how this is kind of equalizing in my space now. I don't feel so imbalanced. I don't feel so opposed, that there's a little layer of peace. Okay. So with that, I want you to be thinking about a time in your life whenever you feel like you had some peace. And it doesn't have to be a long period of time. It could even be, just like a selfie that you look at and you're like, oh, I look so happy there. That could be fine too. Okay. A time whenever you were able to kind of like sit and rebalance and recenter. Okay. Because temperance is not about just like sitting in peace. It's about figuring out how to build that peace, how to welcome in that peace, how to foster that peace and keep it going, keep it growing, and keep it centered upon us. Okay. So definitely finding pictures that make you think of peace in your life. Okay. That could even be like a picture that you took. Let's just say I got a vision of something. Let's say, you like to go for a walk. Okay. So you go for a walk and you come across a little pond and you sit at the pond, and in the middle of the pond, there's a lily, there's a water lily. And you're like, oh, that's so pretty. And you take a picture of that. You're just like, oh, I'm so at peace right here at this pond with this water lily, and you're just enjoying it. And then a fucking car drives by and honks or something, right? Because something always has to rip us out, right? But either way, that could be your representation of peace, right? Because that is going to take you to that place. Whenever you see that card, you're going to go, ah, yeah, that's peace for me, So, yes, let's continue because we are moving in to the juicy parts, what I like to call them. I know that's a little weird, but it is what it is. So we have the devil. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I always say the devil is a good time. I mean, look, like doesn't look too terrible, like not exactly my type, but it is what it is, right? Still, being able to hang out with the devil and have fun and, maybe do some substances that are going to like take you to another level or something, or do that harmful habit. It feels good and you shouldn't do it, but you're going to do it anyway. That stuff. Okay. So the devil feels like really fun in the moment. Not so fun though. Not so fun on the after effects. No. So the devil always makes me think of addiction, makes me think of unhealthy attachments to people, unhealthy attachments to situations, unhealthy habits, things like that. Okay. Unhealthy relationships as well. So, for this card, be thinking about a time in your life that represents that devil energy. Okay. So, like I said, if you're an addict in recovery, that might be addiction for you. I know for me, my devil, definitely addiction stuff. That could be a harmful relationship. Let's say you just got out of a relationship that person was the devil. Then they could go on your card. I wouldn't suggest putting them on your card. I would suggest putting something that reminds you of that situation on the card. Okay. Just because you don't really want to fixate so much. I mean, it's your deck. Do whatever you want. I don't want to tell you what to do, but I would definitely use something that is more about that energy, that experience, right? So again, like if you would put addiction or something like that on there, don't put anything that is going to trigger you later, okay? That's why I'm suggesting don't put your ex on there or anything, because that could be triggering, seeing that come up, okay? Like as an ex drug user, I'm not going to put my drug of choice on there. That would be harmful in so many different ways, right? So, but putting a picture that is going to make you think of that time, okay? That is going to make you remember that time in your life and how far you've come past it, okay? So it's the devil. Then moving on, we have the tower. Oh, another fun one, right? So the tower is all about chaos, right? Like I said, whenever the fool meets the devil, kind of gets into some fun yet harmful stuff, okay? And from there, from all of that fun yet harmful stuff, chaos ensues, right? So not the devil, the fool meets the tower, okay? And things kind of fall apart a little bit. Things crumble, lies start to fall away, right? Like if the fool has been living a lie, all of those lies are going to come tumbling down. There's only so long you can live a lie before it all erupts, right? So that's exactly what's happening here with the tower. So you can be thinking about that, right? A time in your life that was super chaotic, a time in your life whenever you had to essentially allow all of these lies that you believed about yourself to fall away. If you're on that inner work journey, then you know what that feels like. Whenever you are doing that writing and you're like, wow, who am I? What am I doing? What is going on here? Because there's so much coming up, right? But this card, I know the Tower is one of the most feared cards in the deck. I know that. But whenever you are choosing your card, I want you to think about a time when things fell apart so that they could fall back together, okay? And it's not like you knew that that was going to happen in that time, right? It's not like we move into chaos going, oh, it'll be fine. Ha ha. No, usually we go into chaos and we're like, oh, fuck me. This is chaotic as hell. How am I going to survive? Like that type stuff. So whenever you're thinking about what picture to depict with that, I want you to think about a time in your life that was so chaotic, you were so unsure. You had no idea what was going to happen next. You were just expecting everything to fall apart, because the next card is the Star. And that's where we get our hope again, okay? I strongly suggest, if you are going to be doing these in different segments, if you can, pair the heavier cards with a happier card, if that makes sense. Okay. So like, for example, if you were sitting down and you were like, all right, I'm going to do the Tower today, do the Tower and the Star. Okay. Just because that's going to really help you like center that energy and really embrace the so-called positive and the so-called negative. Right. And I say so-called because even positive and negative feels like a judgment to me. And I'm really working on not judging situations and things, because I feel like they all come up for us to work through different things. So I hope that makes sense. Anyway, whenever we go to the Star, we have just found our hope again. We are right on the edge of it. Okay. So like the Star signifies a turning point, a shift, things turning in our favor. Okay. So as we're thinking about the Tower and all of that chaos, if you can think about when the dust settled, you could use that for your Star card. You could also use just a picture of a star. If you have an altar set up and you have your pentacle, you could definitely take a picture of that on your altar, and that could be your star, right? That could be your return to hope. That could be your return to, who you are, things like that, okay? Also, if you are someone who deals with depression, then you can definitely use this card as there's a hope past the depression, right? Think about the last time that you had a depressive episode and what got you out of there and what keeps you above that water now. You could definitely use that for this Star card as well, okay? So then moving on to the Moon, okay? So the Moon is all about fears and anxieties, right? So whenever the Fool, comes into the Star, gets that hope again, the fool starts to see like, okay, I do have some fears and anxieties that are kind of like, kind of tearing me up. I need to go under again. Okay. I love the depiction of the moon on here because this person on the card is diving underneath that water. And that's exactly what we have to do with the moon as well. We have to dive in and see the truth through the illusion. We have to dive in and see what is actually happening, not what we think is happening. Okay. So whenever you're thinking about how you're going to choose the photo for the moon, I want you to think about a time that you were doing that work, doing that deep dive, figuring out what your truth was. Okay. So if you were on that journey right now, learning how to speak your truth, learning how to stand up for yourself, things like that, you could use a current-ish picture, right, of that moon, a time whenever you were doing that. You could even take a picture of your shadow work journal, and use that as the moon, because that would definitely be that dive into the moon space. Okay, then we have the sun. My favorite one. I always sing the Beatles. I'm like, here comes the sun. Do, 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 do. God, I hope that didn't sound terrible. Anyway, so we have the sun, and the sun represents joy. The sun represents like that last little stand, like, oh, finally, I'm climbing out of all that work. Okay, so if you have been doing as much inner work as I have the last few months, you might be feeling the sun. Okay. You might be at least reaching for the sun for sure. Okay. The sun is all about positivity, happiness, things like that. So, really, whenever the fool meets the sun, the fool has been doing all this work, right? So, once the fool has cleared out all the old versions of themselves, has cleared out all the junk, and is really creating the life that they want to live, of course, they're going to have their sun moment. So, for this card, I want you to think about a time in your life that you were really happy. And if you don't have that, this is probably one of the cards that you might want to use a stock photo, or maybe a picture of something that you want, right? Or a picture of something that brings you happiness, okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be a picture that you have taken, because I know that not everybody is on that happiness journey. Not everybody is on that space to like embrace that happiness yet. So you can always choose something that you think would make you happy, or that you want, right? Make it be that thing, make it be this thing that you'll look at and feel that happiness, right? This thing that you'll look at. I always think about kayaking on the river whenever I think about that, right? So like my sun card will probably have kayaking on the river on it, right? Because whenever I think about kayaking on the river, I'm like, oh, yes, that's so good. That just feels so good, right? So I want you to really be thinking about that, right? Things that are going to bring you happiness, things that are going to bring you joy. And if you don't already have an experience that is going to fit that bill, then I want you to think about an experience that whenever you think about it brings you happiness, and put it on that card, okay? Like I said, very few am I going to say, oh yeah, go ahead and put something else on there. But that one, I think it could be important, especially for people who are not feeling happiness in their life. I think it would be really helpful to have something that you think will bring you happiness to look at whenever you're doing this. Okay, we are almost done with this fool's journey portion. So then we have judgment. Okay, so judgment is another awakening card. Okay, judgment is like that edge, right? Like, okay, so am I gonna do this, or am I gonna do this, right? Am I going to embrace who I truly am, or am I going to try to ignore it a little bit longer? Am I going to allow the things that have happened to me to change me and evolve me? Or am I just going to keep seeking the same things over and over and over again, right? So whenever you're thinking about matching this card to some sort of life event, I want you to think about the last spiritual awakening that you had. Okay, I want you to think about that and try to choose a picture in that time frame. Okay, and it could be, a fire, right? It could be like sitting in front of the fire. It could be a selfie. It could be a picture of your altar whenever you changed it last. It could be a lot of things, but I want you to really think about the last spiritual journey that you had and how much that has shaped you, and find a picture to go with that. And lastly, we have the world. So when the fool meets the world, the fool realizes how fulfilled they are, how complete they are, how whole they are. and how much they have really achieved in their lifetime. So with the world, I want you to really focus on bringing those things in, okay? I almost feel like the world should be more like a vision board, okay? I love that idea. The world should be a vision board, okay? With the world card, I want you to think about the things that you are ready to call into your life, that you are ready to embrace into your life, that you are open to embracing in your life. And I want you to put those on that card. Now, this might end up looking more like a collage, right? But that's totally okay. Again, it's your project. You can make it look however you want. But having that idea of what you want and making that vision board, especially making it at the end after you've already done all the other cards, I think that's going to be really powerful. And it's going to set us up for what comes next in our own individual lives. So that was a lot on the Fool's Journey. Again, if you need a deeper dive, feel free to go ahead and go back and watch one of my older Fool's Journey videos. I will go ahead and put links in the comments or in the description of this video, rather. That way y'all can go see that. So the point to all of this, again, is to really be able to continue to heal and to be able to take notice of the things in our lives and to identify them. If we can recognize our patterns, if we can recognize where we are at, what is happening, things like that, if we can have that level of awareness, we are going to be able to move easier through life. Okay, I'm not going to say that it's going to get like, really, really simple, and I'm not going to say that it's going to be like, oh yeah, a piece of cake. No, life is still going to be life. But I think that when we are ready and when we are aware and paying attention, things can go much easier, okay? So, all right. How do we make these cards? Yes, I know that's the other question, right? How are we going to do it? So there's so many different ways to do this. Of course, you can pull out the old photo albums. You can pull out all the stacks of pretty paper that you have. You can pull out all of the crayons, all of the markers, the colored pencils, all the things, right? You can get totally creative on physical cards if you like. I actually have some playing cards that I accidentally bought. So what I'd like to do is I like to use them for little homemade cards, okay? So you can do that. You can make it as creative as you like, right? You can do that, or you can do what I'm doing currently and doing it digitally, okay? So I'm gonna show you one of my cards. I'm actually gonna show you two, but this is my Fool. And I will post a picture of this in the Facebook group whenever I get that up and going. But this is my Fool. I know it's not like the best picture, but this is actually a picture of me about to hike a trail called Misery Ridge. Yeah. So I chose to go with the when I was a little bit of a fool picture here, okay? Because I really did. You can even see like the confidence from behind. I'm like, yes, I'm going to conquer this. Spoiler alert, I did not conquer anything. No, I actually almost fell like off the fucking mountain. So that was you almost didn't see me here. But yeah, so I chose to do that because I can tend to do this exactly here. I get really confident on stuff and then I fuck it up. So there's my Fool card. And I wanted to show you my Magician as well, okay? Because I chose a picture of a time that I felt was really magical and that meant something to me. And that was a huge space of me stepping up into my own manifestations, okay? And that is from, let's just kind of get that off there. All right. And that is from my fire pit. Again, I'll be posting pictures of this in the Facebook group. I just wanted to kind of show you what I had been doing. Now, to do that, I have been using Canva. There are many, many apps out there. I prefer Canva just because I've worked with it. You can find Canva on your computer. You can find it on your phone. I use the phone app because I pretty much use my phone for everything. You can also, use Word. Okay. If you want to use Word, you could use PicLab, Photify, WordSwag. And I'm sure there are millions of other apps out there that can do similar things. Okay. So I want you to find whatever medium feels good to you and do that. I mean, honestly, if you just have like some paper and you want to put it on there, do that. These don't have to be functional. They don't have to be pretty, okay? Like I said, the whole point of this is to heal ourselves through this work and to make something out of this work as well. Because this is going to be something that we can refer back to later and just kind of go, wow, that's so crazy. And as we move through different themes in our life, we can go, oh, I can update that card now and put this thing on there because this thing represents that better for me now. You know, that's all going to help us become more comfortable in ourselves as well as our journey. Okay. So support options. Now, y'all know this video is coming out for donation. Okay, so if you feel so inclined, the donation information is going to be in the description of this video. Okay, now there are some paid options as well. Included with this video is a Facebook group. Okay, so that is not going to be charged or anything like that. All that's going to be is a space for any of us who want to join together and share our cards, to get in there, share our cards, and have that support, right? Have that social support and that knowledge that we are all kind of doing this project together and that we are going to be able to share our journey with others who are on the same journey, okay? Now, these are the paid options. I am creating a PDF that is going to be up on my store. By the time you see this, it should be up on the store. I'll have a whole little section for this class as well, okay? So with the PDF, like I said, there's going to be different questions. There's going to be some different meanings for the cards as well, and as well as some other information just to kind of help you along that journey, okay? That PDF will be in the store, and I do believe I'm going to list it at like $3, okay? Also optional are check-in sessions, okay? So those check-in sessions can happen in a few different ways. If we all want to get together in the Facebook group and decide a Zoom time to get together, we can do that. And those would be included, okay? Or if you would prefer to meet privately with me and have more of a mentor session, then you can definitely book that on the website as well, okay? Again, that would definitely be a paid option. I do believe it's $15. I just changed my prices. So like, I don't even know what my prices are anymore, but they're on the website. With these check-in sessions, with these private mentor sessions, you know, whenever we meet up, you know, this isn't just going to be like, oh, you need to do this, this, and this. This is also like, let's say you're working on the death card and it is really heavy and you just need someone to talk to with that. Someone who is not going to, you know, share what you're sharing. Someone that, you know, whenever you share the information with them, then that information is going to stay there. Yeah, that's what that is for. Okay. I'm not going to share anything that you share with me privately, of course. So those sessions are there so that we can meet in private and so that you can share your stories with me. Like, let's say you get into the group and you're like, oh, this is great, but I really don't want to share this with everyone. You can share it with me. I love hearing people's stories. Like, that's something that I just enjoy. Okay. If I could like sit and listen to every human story on this planet, I would probably be really happy and also really sad because of the stories, right? But I love to hear other people's stories. So if you want to reach out and book that with me for help choosing pictures, for sharing your story, whatever it is, then that space is going to be for that too. So, and I think that is about it. So I'm super excited about this. I can't wait to see where we all go together. I'm really excited to watch us all grow through this experience. And I'm sure that as we go, some of the things that I've talked about in this video are going to evolve and change because that's how my workshops go. Okay. So if you are watching this like 6 months later or something and you get into the Facebook group and it is off the wall, not exactly what was described in this video or whatever, just know it morphed. Okay. I allow space for evolution in everything that I do. So anyway, I think that's about it. So I will get off of here. Please reach out if you have any questions or anything. I will be putting the email and all the things in the description of this video so that y'all can reach out and ask any questions. Either way, I look forward to doing this project with y'all because I can tell you I've only gotten up to the Hierophant. Complete disclosure, I've only gotten up to the Hierophant, and even that, I think I need to go back and change my Empress and my Emperor. But still, I am having so much fun with this, and it's pulling up a lot of things that I still need to look at and I still need to work through. So I know that if it's doing that for me, I know it can help you in your journey as well. So All right, y'all. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see y'all next time. Bye, y'all.